Hello viewers, how are you? Welcome to Elimu TV, the #1 station where you watch and learn. Today I'll be taking you through Biology Form 3 and our topic today is growth and development. Our subtopic is growth and this is lesson 26. I'm your tutor, Madam Sandra Awino. By the end of the lesson, you will be able to, number one, give estimation of growth. And number two, draw the growth curve of an embryo. Number two, draw the growth curve of an embryo. So, measurement of growth. Growth can be estimated by measuring, number one, the height. Number two, you can measure weight. You can measure volume and you can measure length. To determine the growth, you can measure height, you can measure weight, you can measure volume, and finally, you can measure the length of an organism. For example, we have time for after sowing. You've just sown some seeds and dry mass of the embryo. So 0 days after sowing, the dry mass is 2. 2 days after sowing, the dry mass is still 2. 4 days after sowing, the dry mass is 8. And 6 days after sowing, the dry mass. So the dry mass increases with the increase in days. Are we together? Can you see that? The dry mass of the cells increases with the increase in the number of days. So when you draw a graph of the dry mass of the embryo against time after sowing, we put the dry mass on the y-axis and then time on the x-axis. So we plot. We've said that 0 days the dry mass is 0. So we plot and our curve becomes like, you can see the curve. That curve is called sigmoid curve. That curve is called what? Sigmoid curve. In our next lesson, we'll be talking much about the sigmoid curve. This is just an introduction about the growth curve, but you just know that you have to remember that most organism shows this growth curve. Most organism shows the sigmoid curve. Are we together? Are we together, students? So, we've come to the end of our lesson. And I have an assignment for you guys. I have an assignment. What are the parameters for determining growth? What are the parameters for determining growth? I know you can remember. How do we measure growth? We measure growth by doing what? Measuring the length. We can measure the height. For example, if the length was 20 and now is 22, what has happened? Has it grown or not? It has grown. So by determining the length or the height or the weight or the volume, you can determine whether something has grown or not. If you want to know whether you've grown, you can go and determine your weight. If your weight is much higher than when it was last month, then you have done what? You've grown. So for this and more, please contact us. For reference, you can study KLB Secondary Biology Student Book 3, the 5th edition. For reference, you can study KLB Secondary Biology Student Book 3, 5th edition. For this and more, if you want this and more, please contact us. Our SMS number is 0723 144 259. On TV, you can get us on Elimu TV, on Facebook, Elimu TV, and finally on Twitter @ElimuTV_KE.